John Wick is back, and I'm happy to say it is good. So John Wick Chapter 2 is very appropriately titled, as this is a direct continuation of the first film. At the beginning of the movie, he's kind of tying up some loose ends from the first film. But as a consequence of his actions, some people from his past return into his life, pull him back into the world of assassins. A world of rules, honor, and betrayal. For many of us, the first John Wick kind of blew our minds a little bit. We thought we were going into a silly revenge story about a dog getting shot, and instead we got a movie that built a great world of assassins and then populated it with very interesting characters and great action. With that said, my big fear going into this movie was wondering how are they going to have an emotional center like the revenge plot of the first film. Well, the movie bypasses my concerns entirely by not focusing on the revenge aspect of the first film, but the world building of it. So if the first film was kind of like playing in the kiddie pool of this world of assassins and the Continental, this movie is like jumping into the deep end and having a pool party in the world of assassins that we loved from the first film. With that in mind, let's talk about the good. And really at the core of what makes this movie work is the world building, the rules, the intriguing little details about how things come together makes for a fun ride to tell this story with these characters. There's so many scenarios in this movie that only work because of the rules established in the first film and then again in this film. And it makes for interesting and unique resolutions to situations and to scenes and to action sequences. There's one right in the middle of this where two characters are kind of duking it out, and then the resolution to it is based entirely on the world that they've built that makes it so fascinating and interesting what transpires afterwards. Along those same lines, what makes all of this so interesting is the world is populated by great characters played by amazing actors. So of course Keanu Reeves is the anchor to this film, but wherever he goes he has these great little interactions with all these actors that have small parts, bit parts, cameos that flesh out these roles that otherwise might be forgettable or small parts, but they become interesting little unique moments because of who's playing the part and how vibrant these characters are because of the actors playing them. And one of the things that all of them bring to the table is a quirky, dry sense of humor. I think this is going to be one of the things that's underappreciated about the John Wick franchise is its sense of humor. But of course this is an action movie, so we've got to talk about the action because, well, it's pretty great. Very much like the first film, there's lots of wide-angle shots that are lit well enough that you can see what's going on with very interesting and cool choreography. I think probably the biggest compliment you can give to the gunfights and the fistfights in this movie, that if you just saw any of the action sequences in this movie independent from context, you would be able to identify it as a John Wick film because it has such a unique style to the fighting, to the gun fu, all the arm locks and flippy roll things that Keanu Reeves does. You would be able to identify it just by the nature of the choreography. And what this movie does really smart with the action is that it doesn't just go bigger by having a bunch of explosions and CGI nonsense and having John Wick jump out of airplanes. No, it goes smarter with the action. So like in the first film, John Wick mostly just takes on armies of kind of cannon fodder that he shoots in the head. In this film, since we're diving into the deep end of this world of assassins, it's populated by a bunch of people that are his equals, that are worthy adversaries to him, which makes for bigger and better action sequences. So it doesn't try to change the John Wick formula, it just tries to perfect the John Wick formula. So if there's a car chase, you get nice, wide, cool shots of car stunts with motorcycles and people getting hit by cars. There's a gunfight. They expand it to a wider angle so you can see these cool fight scenes and how he stages things and where he sets things up so he can be successful. There's more and longer fist fights where he's fighting guys in cool environments and different things are happening. The environments where these fights are happening cooler and the cinematography is better and the environments are more vibrant and interesting to look at. All of this makes for a movie that I wouldn't say is better than the first film, but a great companion to the first film and a great continuation, a great chapter 2 to the first film. But with all that said, it's not a perfect film and there are some significant issues in the first third of the film. As I mentioned earlier, the film starts off as a direct continuation of the first film, and in that it gets very self-referentially. There's a lot of stuff that's like, do you know what he can do with a pencil? Do you know that he did an impossible task? Do you know what he did because someone killed his dog and stole his car? And the whole thing just feels kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Do you remember the first film? Just too self-referentially for me. Once the movie moves past this opening action sequence, which is great by the way, it slows down and introduces a bunch of characters, and we have a suit fitting in there, and we have a bunch of world building going on, and there's no action for what felt like 30 minutes. And in this long, slow section, it felt like they tried to add some elements to give it some booms and to give John Wick some extra motivation, but I think the movie could have been better if they just cut it out and streamlined this first act a little bit more. With all that said, this is probably going to be the best straight-up action movie of the year. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. This is a great fun time, and it's an excellent continuation of the first film with amazing action sequences, a great world that you want to spend more time in. The first act is a little bit uneven and slows down a little bit too much, but once things get going, it only gets better and better as it goes along. If you're a fan of action movies, you must go see this in the theaters. You will not be disappointed. If you are a fan of the first John Wick film, I can't imagine you not liking this movie. And if I'm being honest, I'll be very disappointed if this movie doesn't have a great opening weekend and if people don't love it. I will be so disappointed. I had a great time and I want you to go see this movie. But that's just one man's opinion. I don't want to just talk about John Wick. I want to talk about John Wick with you. So comment in the comment section below. If you've already seen John Wick 2, what did you think about it? Do you think it lived up to the first film like I did? Or did you think it was a step down? Or did you think it was even better than the first film? Tell me what you thought below, or if you haven't seen it yet, let's talk about the first film. Did it blow your mind the way it blew my mind? Also, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. During the work week, I have a movie news roundup show I do each day, as well as 3 or 4 movie reviews each week, and then I do a live show on Sundays where I kind of have a chat board, interact back and forth with you guys, because I don't want to just talk about movies, I want to talk about movies with you, and thank you for watching.